English Bridge Podcast.
From your favorite healing space.
I had a client who said something chilling. She told me, "I'd rather be laid off than live like this." She wasn't being dramatic. She meant it.
That's brutal, Noah. But honestly, I felt that. When I was teaching in Shanghai on 6-month contracts, I used to fantasize about getting fired just so the waiting would stop.
And that's the paradox we're unpacking today. The anxiety of unstable work isn't about being jobless. It's about being stuck in permanent uncertainty. Your brain can't rest when it doesn't know if the ground beneath you is solid.
Welcome back to English Bridge. I'm Cheryl, and I spent 3 years teaching English in Asia on contracts that got renewed every semester, or didn't. I know what it's like to plan your life in 3-month chunks.
And I'm Noah. When I was counseling, I saw more burnout from job instability than from overwork. People weren't collapsing from doing too much. They were collapsing from never knowing if what they were doing mattered.
Yeah, and here's the thing nobody talks about. It's not just gig workers or freelancers anymore. I had students in corporate jobs who felt the same way. Restructuring rumors, contract roles disguised as permanent, bosses who wouldn't commit to next quarter's budget.
Exactly. From a psychological standpoint, chronic uncertainty activates the same stress response as actual threat. Your nervous system can't tell the difference between a lion chasing you and a boss who might not renew your contract.
So your body is basically running on emergency mode all the time, even when you're just sitting at your desk answering emails. That's exhausting.
Today we're looking at why unstable work creates this specific kind of anxiety, why it's different from unemployment, why some people seem fine with it while others fall apart, and what actually helps.
Because Noah, I think a lot of listeners are living this right now. They're wondering if it's normal to feel this drained when technically they have a job. Is something wrong with them?
Nothing is wrong with them. What's wrong is the situation. But here's what I want people to understand. This anxiety has specific psychological roots, and once you see them, you can actually do something about it.
And we're not talking about just think positive garbage, right? Like if your job genuinely might disappear next month, pretending it won't doesn't help.
Right. We're talking about managing your nervous system, understanding what your brain is doing, and making choices that give you back some sense of control, even small ones.
Okay, so before we get into the why and the what to do, let's just paint the picture. What does this actually feel like day to day?
Picture this. It's Sunday evening. You've got tomorrow off, a rare weekday break. But instead of feeling relaxed, your mind is running through 20 open tabs. Did you send that follow-up email? Should you check if your contract renewal got approved? What if they're discussing your position right now?
Oh, I hate this. And then you feel guilty, right? Because you're supposed to be resting, but your brain won't shut up. So now you're anxious about being anxious.
Exactly. You open your laptop just to check one thing. 2 hours later, you've answered 15 emails that technically could have waited, but they couldn't wait in your head.
And then you start thinking, if I don't reply fast, they'll think I'm not committed. If they think I'm not committed, maybe I'm the first one cut when budgets tighten.
So you've just spent your day off working for free, not because anyone asked you to, but because your brain is trying to create certainty where none exists. You go to bed more tired than you woke up.
And the worst part, you didn't even enjoy the emails. You weren't productive. You were just reducing anxiety. That's a huge difference.
Here's another one. You're technically off the clock, but your phone is always within arm's reach because what if your boss messages? What if there's an urgent project? What if they need to know you're available?
I lived this in Shanghai. My school director would message at 10 p.m. asking if I could cover a class the next morning, and I always said yes, even when I had plans, because what if saying no made me replaceable?
And what happens is your nervous system never fully relaxes. Even when you're watching a movie, part of your brain is on call. You're in a state called hypervigilance, scanning for threats that might not even come.
So you're exhausted from things that didn't even happen. You're tired from preparing for emergencies that never arrived. That's wild.
It's like being a soldier in a war zone. You're not tired from fighting. You're tired from waiting to fight. The anticipation is what drains you.
And then people tell you, just unplug, take a real break. But you can't, because the consequences of missing that one message feel too high. Okay, here's one that really messes with people.
You finally get a completely free day. No meetings, no deadlines, no obligations. You should feel relieved. Instead, you feel paralyzed. What should you do? Rest? Catch up on personal projects? Learn that skill that might make you more employable?
Yes. I had a student who got laid off and suddenly had 3 months of severance. She told me it was the most stressful time of her life because every choice felt loaded. Should she travel? Network? Upskill? Every decision felt like it could determine her future.
That's decision fatigue meeting existential dread. Freedom requires making choices, but when you're in survival mode, every choice feels like a referendum on your worth. So you freeze.
And then you waste the day scrolling social media, feeling guilty the whole time. The one day you had to yourself and you spent it doing nothing that actually recharged you.
Because rest requires a sense of safety. And when your job is unstable, you don't feel safe enough to truly let go.
Man. Okay, here's one I don't think people talk about enough. The emotional labor of just showing up.
This is huge. When your job is unstable, you're not just doing the work. You're managing how everyone perceives you doing the work. You're performing competence, enthusiasm, indispensability, all day, every day.
I had to do this constantly. Smile at the staff meeting even though my contract renewal was uncertain. Act like I loved teaching the 7th grader who threw a book at me. Pretend I wasn't worried when the school started hiring cheaper teachers from the Philippines.
That's called surface acting, and it's neurologically expensive. Your prefrontal cortex is working overtime to suppress your real feelings and project the right ones. By the end of the day, you're cooked.
And nobody sees that work. Your boss doesn't say, "Great job managing your terror today." They just see someone doing their job. But you know how much energy it took.
It's like wearing a mask all day. The mask isn't heavy, but holding it up for 8 hours straight, that's exhausting.
Okay, last one, and this one's insidious. You're scrolling Instagram and you see someone from college just got promoted, someone else launched their business, your friend just bought a house, and you're over here wondering if you'll have a paycheck in 3 months.
The comparison trap. And it's brutal because you're comparing your behind-the-scenes chaos to everyone else's highlight reel.
I remember sitting in my tiny Shanghai apartment, seeing friends back home posting about their stable jobs, their 401ks, their career progression, and I felt like I was stuck in this loop of short-term contracts and constant hustle.
And the cruel irony is that instability makes you more vulnerable to comparison. When you're uncertain about your own path, other people's success feels like proof that you're falling behind.
So those are the feelings. And if you're listening and thinking, "Oh God, that's me," you're not alone. But Noah, why does this happen? Like, why does job instability create this specific flavor of misery?
Great question. Let's start with what's happening in your brain. Your brain uses about 20% of your body's energy, and a huge chunk of that goes to managing incomplete tasks. There's this thing called the Zeigarnik effect.
The what now?
Zeigarnik effect. It's a psychological principle that unfinished tasks take up more mental space than finished ones. That half-written report, that contract that might get renewed, those stay active in your brain, draining energy even when you're not working on them.
So that half-written email is literally louder in my brain than the 10 I already sent and closed?
Exactly. Your brain keeps those loops open, constantly checking. Did I finish that? What's the status? When's the deadline? And with unstable work, almost everything feels unfinished. You never get closure.
So it's like having 20 browser tabs open all the time, and each one is playing a different video. No wonder people feel scattered.
And here's the kicker. Closing those loops, finishing tasks, getting answers, reaching resolution, that's what gives your brain relief. But in unstable work, you can't close the biggest loop. Will I still have this job next month? That stays open indefinitely.
That's brutal. Okay, so that's the cognitive load piece. What else?
Emotional labor. We touched on it earlier, but let's go deeper. Emotional labor is when you have to manage your feelings to meet social or professional requirements. It's not just customer service. It's any job where your emotions are part of the product.
So like having to be friendly and enthusiastic when a passenger is being difficult? Or when your manager gives you impossible deadlines but you have to act grateful?
Exactly. And it's not just external. There's also the emotional labor of managing your own anxiety so it doesn't leak out. You can't let your boss see you're worried about job security. You can't let clients sense your desperation, so you're regulating constantly.
When I was teaching, I had to be on for 6 hours straight. Energetic, patient, encouraging. Even on days when I got bad news about my contract or I was sick. The kids didn't care. They needed teacher Cheryl, not anxious Cheryl.
And that regulation depletes your prefrontal cortex. It's the same brain region you use for decision-making, focus, and self-control. So by the time you get home, you got nothing left.
Which is why you end up staring at the fridge for 10 minutes trying to decide what to eat. Your decision-making battery is dead.
Now add the cultural dimension, Cheryl, because I think your experience in Asia highlights this.
Oh yeah. Okay, so Noah, why does this seem bigger in some cultures? Like my Asian students seem to carry this weight differently than my American friends.
Collectivist cultures often emphasize harmony and group cohesion. So you're not just managing your own feelings, you're managing how your feelings affect everyone around you. Saying no, expressing frustration, admitting you're struggling, those can feel like failures.
Right. So you're exhausted not from what you did, but from what you didn't say. All the times you swallowed your frustration, agreed to extra work, pretended everything was fine.
And in individualist cultures, there's a different pressure, the myth of the self-made person. If you're struggling with job instability, the narrative is often, you just need to work harder, be more resilient, adapt. So you internalize it as personal failure.
Either way, you're carrying weight that isn't really yours. Okay, you mentioned decision fatigue earlier. Let's dig into that.
Every day you make hundreds of tiny decisions. What to wear, what to eat, which email to answer first, whether to speak up in a meeting. Each one depletes your willpower a little bit. When your job is stable, some of those decisions are automatic.
But when it's unstable, every decision feels high stakes. Like, should I buy groceries for the week or save that money? Should I sign a lease or stay month to month? Should I invest in this course or keep that cash for emergencies?
Exactly. And here's a perfect example. You get home after a long day. You sit down to watch something on Netflix. 30 minutes later, you're still scrolling through options, unable to choose. That's decision fatigue.
And then you feel pathetic because you can't even pick a TV show. But really, your brain is just out of gas from making survival-level decisions all day.
Right. The Netflix paralysis isn't the problem. It's the symptom. Your decision-making system is overloaded.
Okay, so we've got cognitive load, emotional labor, cultural pressure, and decision fatigue. That's a lot, but Noah, I think hearing real stories helps. Can you tell us about someone you worked with?
Yeah. I had a client named Melissa, 32, marketing contractor. She'd been on rolling 3-month contracts for 2 years. Every 10 weeks, she'd start panicking. Would they renew? Should she start looking elsewhere? She was constantly in this limbo.
Oh man, I feel for her already. That's no way to live.
And here's what she was doing wrong. She'd spend the last month of every contract in total freeze mode. Couldn't focus on her work because she was mentally job hunting. Couldn't actually job hunting because what if they renewed and she'd wasted all that energy?
But Noah, why didn't she just start looking earlier? Like, why wait until the panic hit? What held her back?
Fear of betrayal? She told me, if I look for other jobs while I'm still here, I'm being disloyal. And if they find out, they definitely won't renew. So she'd trap herself in this loyalty to a company that wouldn't even commit to her past 90 days.
That's heartbreaking, because she's protecting a relationship that's already one-sided.
Exactly. And the lesson here is that loyalty is a two-way street. If your employer isn't committing to you, you don't owe them your mental health. Melissa eventually learned to keep her options open without guilt.
Good for her. That reminds me of someone I knew in Shanghai, a teacher named David.
I'm curious. Tell me more.
So David was this Australian guy, taught business English, always got renewed but never got a permanent contract. He was good at his job, students loved him, but the school kept him on 1-year contracts for 4 years straight.
4 years. That's not instability. That's exploitation disguised as flexibility. What finally changed for him?
He stopped waiting for permission. One day he just said, I'm going to act like I'm staying. He signed a 2-year apartment lease, bought furniture, enrolled in a Mandarin course, and weirdly, that's when his anxiety dropped.
That's fascinating. Because he couldn't control whether the school renewed him, but he could control how he lived his life. He stopped putting everything on hold.
Exactly, and the irony? The school offered him a permanent contract 6 months later. I don't think that was coincidence. When he stopped acting desperate, they saw him differently.
There's real psychological truth there. When you stop operating from scarcity, people sense it. That connects to another client I worked with, a guy named James.
Okay, I'm listening.
James was a freelance graphic designer. Every project felt like his last. He'd undercharge, overdeliver, work weekends, say yes to every revision. He was terrified that one no would mean no more work.
But Noah, how did you get him to change? Because just telling someone to stop being desperate doesn't work. What did you actually do?
We ran a micro experiment. I said, next client who asks for free revisions beyond the contract, say no. Just once. Let's see what happens. He was convinced they'd drop him.
And?
They said, no problem. What's your rate for extra revisions? Paid him. Kept working with him. The relationship didn't end. It got more professional. He realized his fear was protecting him from a threat that didn't exist.
I love that. It's like you have to test the thing you're afraid of to see if it's actually real. I had a student who did something similar actually. She was a content creator, always comparing herself to others.
Oh, I feel for her already. Creative fields plus social media, that's a brutal combination.
Her name was Priya. She'd post something, then spend hours checking if other creators got more likes. She told me, I can't stop looking. I need to know where I stand.
But why didn't she just stop checking? I mean, she knew it was making her miserable. What kept pulling her back?
Fear that if she wasn't constantly monitoring, she'd miss something important. Like, what if someone big commented and she didn't respond fast enough? What if a trend started and she was late? She was treating social media like a job that might fire her.
That's the collector's fallacy meets FOMO. She was collecting information, not because it helped her create better work, but because it gave her the illusion of control.
Exactly. And her turning point was when she scheduled 1 hour a week for comparison time. Sounds weird, but she'd literally set a timer, check everyone's stats, then close the apps. The rest of the week, off limits.
That's brilliant. She didn't try to eliminate the behavior, she contained it. And I bet the anxiety dropped because she had a plan. Uncertainty is what kills you, not the comparison itself.
Exactly. So those are 4 different people, 4 different situations, but the pattern is the same. They were all stuck until they found one small thing they could control.
And that's the bridge to what I want to talk about next, because your body is giving you signals about this instability long before your brain consciously registers it. Let's talk about what to actually watch for.
Okay, yeah, because I think people miss the early warnings, right? They don't realize how bad it's gotten until they're fully burned out.
Exactly. So first signal, chronic muscle tension. Your shoulders are up by your ears. Your jaw is clenched. You don't even notice until someone points it out or you wake up with a headache.
Oh, I had this. My dentist told me I was grinding my teeth at night. I had no idea. I thought I was sleeping fine, but my body was still in fight or flight mode.
That's your nervous system stuck in sympathetic activation. Even when you're unconscious, your body thinks there's danger. It's preparing to run or fight, but there's nowhere to run and nothing to fight.
So what do? Like you can't just tell your jaw to relax?
You can't think your way out of it. You need somatic practices, things that signal safety to your body. Deep breathing, progressive muscle relaxation, even humming activates your vagus nerve and tells your system, we're safe.
Okay, but here's the thing people say that drives me crazy. I'll rest properly when I go on vacation. I'll decompress then. But Noah, vacation never comes. Or when it does, you're too wired to enjoy it.
Right. That's the myth of the perfect moment. People delay rest until conditions are ideal, but instability means conditions are never ideal. So you end up running on fumes indefinitely.
And then when you finally do get a break, you spend the first 3 days just crashing. You're not relaxing, you're recovering from months of deficit.
Which brings us to passive versus active rest. Cheryl, when you were teaching and you get home exhausted, what did you do?
Honestly, scrolled my phone, watched YouTube. Stuff that felt like rest but didn't actually recharge me.
That's passive rest. It's low effort, but it doesn't restore your nervous system. Active rest is things like walking, stretching, talking to a friend, cooking a meal. They require a little effort, but they actually give you energy back.
Okay, but real talk, Noah. When you're exhausted and your job might disappear next month, go for a walk. Sounds like rich people advice. What does real rest look like on a Tuesday when you're broken tired?
Fair pushback. Real rest on a Tuesday might be 10 minutes of just sitting outside, not on your phone, just sitting. Or it's cooking one actual meal instead of eating cereal over the sink. Or it's calling one friend and saying, I'm struggling.
So it's not about money or time. It's about actually letting your nervous system reset instead of just numbing out.
Exactly. And that brings us to micro experiments. The smallest possible action you can take to break inertia, not overhaul your entire life. Just try one thing tomorrow.
Okay, give me an example. Because I think people hear that and still don't know where to start.
Here's one. Tomorrow, when you wake up before you check your phone, drink a glass of water. That's it. You're not meditating for an hour. You're not running 5 miles. You're drinking water.
And that helps because
Because you're proving to yourself that you can do something intentional before reacting to the world's demands. It's a tiny act of agency. And agency is the antidote to helplessness.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. The feelings, the causes, the stories, the warning signs. Let's get practical. What can someone actually do this week?
First, do a cognitive load audit. Write down every single thing taking up space in your head. Work tasks, personal tasks, decisions you're avoiding. Get it all out of your brain and onto paper.
This is huge. I did this once and I had 43 things on the list. No wonder I couldn't think straight.
Second, schedule nothing time. Literally put it on your calendar. 30 minutes where you're not productive, not consuming content, not optimizing. You're just existing.
And when people ask what you're doing, you say, I have an appointment. Because you do. With yourself.
Third, complete one microcycle. Pick the smallest task on your list and finish it completely. Reply to that email. Wash those 3 dishes. Close one Zygarnik loop.
I love this because it's not about being productive. It's about giving your brain the relief of completion. Something actually got done.
Fourth, name the specific type of tired you are. Are you physically tired, mentally tired, emotionally tired, socially tired? They require different remedies.
Yes, because if you're emotionally tired, sleeping more won't help. You need connection or solitude, depending on the flavor.
Fifth, set one boundary this week. Just one. Say no to one request. Leave work on time one day. Don't check email after 8 p.m. on Thursday. Practice protecting your energy.
And notice that the world doesn't end. That's the scary part, but also the liberating part.
Here's what nobody tells you about job instability. The anxiety isn't about the job. It's about losing your sense of control. And you can't control the job market, but you can control how you treat yourself in the middle of it.
And if you're listening to this at 2 a.m, unable to sleep because you're worried about your contract, you're not broken. You're having a normal response to an abnormal situation. Be gentle with yourself.
If this conversation resonated with you, send it to someone who needs to hear it today.
And make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. We've got something really good lined up.
I'm Noah.
And I'm Cheryl. See you on the bridge.